Welcome. In this video, I'm reviewing the Dictionary of the History of Ideas. And this is a 5-volume series. There's a paperback and a hardcover version of it. So this is the paperback version. It comes in this box, this case, and it's 4 volumes plus an index, and I'll show you what the index looks like in a second. There's also a newer version that I'm going to do a separate video on, the new Dictionary of the History of Ideas. And just to put it in perspective, this was originally published in '68. That's when the hardcover came out, and then '73 is when the new one, the paperback, or not the new one, the paperback came out. And then 2005 is when this came out. And this is 6 volumes, and each volume has a different picture on the front. But I'll be doing a separate video on that. Just to show you a size comparison. That's the difference in size. And that being said, the text in both of them is still about the same size. It's pretty small, which is kind of annoying. But what I like specifically, and just to give you a taste of what's inside, here's the list of articles. And part of what I like about this is you see here, there's always, if you're familiar with reading these kind of dictionaries or encyclopedias, you may be wondering, why is this called a dictionary? There actually isn't a clear distinction between a dictionary and an encyclopedia. So an encyclopedia is always going to have longer entries, whereas a dictionary may be kind of a classic dictionary, or it may be a encyclopedia that happens to be called a dictionary. So dictionary can kind of cover both meanings, whereas encyclopedia is only when it's a longer entry for each. And just another kind of interesting things about these kind of books in general is that the first word almost always has some kind of political or philosophical tinge to it. There's usually some kind of meaning to the first word, and even like the first few words. And so you can see that here, where the first word or entry is abstraction in the formation of concepts. So that's telling you this is going to be more of a traditionalist, rationalist perspective on things. And the fact that it was published in 1968, and a book like this is going to be in the works for probably at least 10 years. Its origination was more in the 50s, late 50s, and so the changes of the 60s were in the air, but it was a kind of turning point. And part of where you can see that is in these 2 entries right here: alienation in Christian theology and alienation in Hegel and Marx. And I'm going to do a more in-depth analysis in a separate video, but in the new version, it's just alienation. And they give you a paragraph or 2 on the theological Christian meaning of it. But then the rest of the article, which is not that long either, it's quite short, is on, sends you on a path of existentialism, identity, person, idea of society, postmodernism, alienation and social criticism, alienation theories and de-alienation strategies. So, and then the first word here is abolitionism. Aesthetics of Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas. And then several entries on Africa. So that's pretty much why these two different versions exist. And of course, you see here, there's no entries on Africa there. So when you open this up, you have your title page. You have a preface, and the preface and the kind of prefatory material in the new one, there's actually some really cool stuff there. I'll get to that in the other video. You have an analytical table here. So this right here in bold is kind of the first big category. Then you have two more big categories: human nature, literature and the arts. And by the way, I should mention, I have a course on this kind of stuff, this kind of encyclopedic learning, basically how to become have that sort of Renaissance man level of knowledge about how do you even approach that problem? How do you become well-rounded and do that in a systematic way? So you can email me at support@timothykenny.com if you want to learn more about that course. But this is the kind of stuff that this is just like one pillar of the 8 pillars that are in that course. And this is one of the books that I recommend for that kind of stuff. So if you want to learn more of this kind of stuff and how it fits into a larger, can turn into a larger project for you, or a larger understanding of the world of ideas in that big picture, very wide angle lens type of thing, you can email me about that and we'll get back to you with more information. So then you have the list of articles. And so you actually have page numbers here. So the I means volume 1, and then you have the page numbers. And you flip the page and now you have volume 2 up here with design, argument, and despotism. And so that goes all the way to volume 4. And then remember, volume 5 is the index. So, and then you have list of contributors. I want to show you, this is a good time to look at the index. And it is a little bit thinner. The first 3 volumes are as thick as the first, and then the 4th and the 5th are a little bit thinner. So let's take a look at the index. Title page. And so this is a very serious index. It's not just a table of contents like we just looked at. And so you look at abstraction right here, and then it's showing you how abstraction was sort of relevant to all these different names. Aquinas, Aristotle, Adamus. Berkeley, Boethius, Democritus, Descartes, Duns Scotus, Epicureanism. So it really, there's a lot of stuff in here. And there's like, and it might seem weird, but you can actually read this index and learn a lot just from how the ideas are connected here. Because part of building that encyclopedic knowledge, cyclo just means round, so it's kind of knowledge in the round, knowledge from all around, looking at reality from every kind of 360 point of view. And to a certain extent, it's almost like a 360-degree review by by your peers, by your superiors and your subordinates. Although then you get into sort of knowledge from above, knowledge from below, knowledge from the same level. And I wouldn't say that these books necessarily cover that. And that's an even more, I would say, advanced way of looking at things, of how things are described differently and conceptualized differently based on socioeconomic sort of strata and the different biases that are at play at each of those levels. But you just go through and it's just the same kind of stuff. It's just page after page of this very small text, and but just under 500 pages. Let's see what the last entry is. Zwingli. So it's almost like you think about preparing for Jeopardy or having that kind of quiz bowl type of knowledge where you need to be able to understand the connections between things. That's where an index can actually capture a lot of that information very efficiently. So you have all these people, dozens and dozens, hundreds of people, each experts in their field, writing an article. So you get beyond that, and then you get your first entry. And you just have pages of text. You'll sometimes have citations like De Anima, Volume 1. You'll have the dates of different people. Maimonides. You will have some academic sources, so Zedler 61 there. You will have bolding, so you have St. Thomas Aquinas there. So he's got one of the theories of abstraction. And at the top of the page, they tell you what article you're on. And a lot of times these are organized historically. So William of Ockham, Descartes, John Locke. And this is one of the things that I really like about this version that is not nearly as good in the newer version. And another kind of principle that I recommend is you need to be really careful about assuming that the new version is just kind of an updated or is like relatively the same, but just adding new material as opposed to a philosophical paradigm shift, which is more a more accurate representation, but also, history. What's really good about this is it doesn't leave out all the stuff that happened in the Middle Ages. It doesn't have that sort of presentism bias of like the last 100 years, last few 100 years that you find more in the in this one. And so this would be better to be just called Ideas, not the History of Ideas, because it doesn't try to go all the way back and then kind of march through history of the various time periods. Of course, there is going to be a Western European bias here, so it's not going to go back into the history of things like in ancient China or Africa or the things like that. So at the end, you have a bibliography. And it's not just like a list of stuff. There's actually a little bit of guidance as to, okay, main developments of Greek thought. And then, each paragraph kind of has a little bit of a guidance for you. And then at the very end, you have other articles you can take a look at that are connected. So it's almost like Wikipedia, where they link at the bottom of related articles. And then the bold ones are the ones that are especially notable. So that's really it. Just to kind of finish the comparison, this is how long the alienation article is here. Here's the Christian version of it. And then you get the Hegel and Marx version. And they go into quite a bit of detail. And Hegel especially was influenced by Christian ideas and was kind of adapting them and responding to rationalism and trying to bring things together. And I believe he was in a seminary for a period, so which is training to become a priest. So it's very important to be able to have the context historically of what was going on that led to these ideas. Another book that I recommend is, and he's actually written several books on the history of human rights, the intellectual history of human rights. His name is Samuel Moyn. And he's written several books on the history of human rights and tracing back its, he teaches at Yale, and he has a position at Yale Law School as well as the Department of History. So The Last Utopia is one, Not Enough, Humane, Christian Human Rights. So, and Samuel Moyn actually was in the White House for a period during the Clinton administration. Went to Harvard Law School, UC Berkeley PhD. So he's an interesting, that's another book that I covered in the course I mentioned. So you can email me at Timothy Kenny, support@timothykenny.com if you want more information on the course. There's really nothing like it out there. So if you really want to take to the ultimate, how do you build that kind of the kind of modern equivalent of that ideal of a Renaissance man, of having that encyclopedic knowledge. But even beyond that, um, I highly recommend you check it out. It's one of my most popular courses, um, and it's exclusively through my website. So I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Make sure to subscribe if you want to get more content like this. And I actually have a whole playlist on my channel about different encyclopedias and different ephemera that were part of the Encyclopedia Britannica. There's a lot of really influential people, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Sonia Sotomayor, who all encyclopedias were a big part of their childhood and were part of their education, part of what made them very well-rounded. And it's something that's lost in the era of Google, because Google allows you to ignore vast swaths of knowledge and kind of not even realize that they exist. Whereas a book like this, you have the table of contents. Experts have decided and kind of sifted through a ton of stuff to pick what are the most important ideas that everybody should know about. Same problem with Wikipedia. There's no way, or there are ways, but it's difficult to determine, if I have limited time, how do I cover all this stuff? And that's really what the course is about. My course is that if you have limited time, how do you compress things down so you can at least get an adequate sampling of all the different kind of things. So yeah, definitely check out that playlist as well. I'm somewhat of an amateur book collector, and so I've collected a lot of stuff that you won't find anywhere else, and I sort of went on a spending spree a while ago, just collecting a bunch of stuff that's hard to find, that gives you a picture into what it was like in a different era, and the kind of biases that exist for people now because of changes in technology that create different shapes of a knowledge graph. So like, people tend to be very shallow and then very deep in one or two areas, usually one area of their specialization. And so what if you want to create a different sort of shape, whether you want to be multidisciplinary in 2 or 3 different disciplines, or my recent history of the education of Dr. Anthony Fauci, very interested in clinical medicine, also very interested in basic science. I show how he merged the two. Very interested in humanities, was a Greek classics obsessed in high school, got a classical Jesuit education at Holy Cross, but then very scientific, and was on the cutting edge of technology with immunobiology at the NIH. And that's what led to his work on AIDS, and then various pandemics, and eventually COVID. Mark Zuckerberg, who I'm going to be doing some stuff on, he was also huge into the classics, went to Phillips Exeter and then Harvard. So you find this stuff all over the place. And if you study, these people have been very financially successful or otherwise been successful in government or leadership, different measures of eminence. You see a lot of this stuff popping up over and over again. And it's kind of like an underground hobby or thing that people who are more in the know do this stuff, or with their kids, they're making sure that they're, as a parent, supplementing and enriching what they're doing, what the school is doing. So I also do coaching, consulting with parents that want to understand this stuff more and create more customized education for their kids, as well as with individuals. So if that's something you're interested in, you can reach out to me as well on that kind of stuff. support@timothykenny.com. And yeah, check out my stuff down below. And also in the comments, if there's specific things you want me to cover related to anything involving dictionaries, encyclopedias, reference materials kind of stuff, and sort of more old school types of education that I think still has a lot of modern day uses, and you just see it over and over and over again in the most successful people, most prominent people. I recommend you check this stuff out, and just give me your recommendations on what you want to see me review next. I've kind of accidentally become the top person on YouTube reviewing these kind of encyclopedic works and sort of older books and reference materials and stuff like that. So definitely let me know, and I'll try to accommodate as much as I can. So I'll leave it there. Make sure you also get on my newsletter on my website at timothykenny.com if you want to get more updates on the stuff that I put out. That's really the only place where I give updates on all the different new stuff that I'm coming out with. And so if you want to be kept up to date, definitely make sure you're on the email list. And there's a bunch of free stuff that I give out on the email list as well the first 7 days after you sign up. So a lot of good stuff there as well. So I'll leave it there, and I'll see you in the next video.